Since 2007, one man has dared to expose the sinister power players on all sides of the phony political spectrum. Armed with over 30 years of research knowledge of the paranormal, government conspiracies, geopolitics, secret and ancient societies, the esoteric arts, and much more. One man's quest for knowledge has become a mission for the enlightenment of all people. Broadcasting from the conspiracy ground zero of Dallas, Texas, this is The Global Reality with your host, Josh Reeves.
All right, how we doing, guys? Monday, June 2nd, 2025. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being here with me for another edition of the show. If you're a new listener of the show and you just found out about me from hearing my fifth appearance on Coast to Coast AM Saturday night, welcome, first off. Thank you. And I need to tell you, if you're a new listener, how it works around here, so nothing's a surprise for you later. Unlike Coast to Coast AM and every other show out there, whether terrestrial radio or podcast, we have no commercials here. I refuse and have from the very beginning to have commercials and ads. But the money's got to come from somewhere to pay for the cost of doing this every month. And all the films I make, 20 or so I've made already this year, 32 last year, So what we do is here, for you new listeners, we have a once a month fundraising time, and we have to raise the money to pay the operating cost and pay the studio rent and all that stuff so I can continue to have a roof over my head and a studio to do my work at. So this is that week. And we have to raise $1,300 by Friday at the latest, by 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Friday. That'd be the 6th. So dayglow76 at yahoo.com on PayPal. Send through friends and family so it doesn't charge me a bunch of fees. Cashapp-reevesradio, all lowercase, one word, Reeves Radio for Cash App. To use Venmo, it's capital J, Josh, dash, capital R, Reeves, dash 61 on Venmo. And please don't ever think that, somebody else will donate, I don't need to, it'll, my contribution's not important. No, it is. Every contribution is important. Buy downloads from the download store if that's all you can do. Just don't not do anything, okay? If you're a listener, I don't try to sell you, dick pills or MeUndies or Jew Gold or whatever. You don't get that here. And when you listen to my show as opposed to listening to every other fucking show out there, you should appreciate that. I mean, I did 2 hours on Coast to Coast AM the other night, and it's like 45 minutes maybe of content, which if you didn't listen live, you'll probably never get to hear unless you have a subscription to Coast AM and their member thing. Man, that is such an old, outdated, broken model. No one listens to terrestrial radio anymore. They just flat don't. Nobody gets in their car. In most cars now, you have Bluetooth or satellite radio and stuff. Most people get in their car and they stream stuff off their phone. People are not getting in a car and turning on a radio and listening from an archaic antenna anymore. It just is not what people do. They always find a way to sabotage me when I go on Coast to Coast. It's so weird. Last time I went on, year before last, was it year before last, I think? Yeah, they booked me to talk about one film I'd put out. And then a couple of weeks went by between the time they booked me and the time I went on, and in that time I made another film. So the day I went on to do the show with Richard Serrett, they changed the topic of the show we were going to talk about and changed it to in the last minute to the most recent film I had made. So I wasn't prepared to talk about that subject. I was completely prepared to talk about a different subject. Thankfully, they didn't do that to me this time, and I thought it was amongst, not amongst, I thought it was actually my best appearance on Coast to Coast AM, actually. That's why I pitched this show to Richard in the first place. You know, he didn't ask me, Coast to Coast AM didn't ask me to be on the show. I asked Richard. I said, hey, man, I just found this fucking movie called This Is Hangar 18, and I think it's perfect for the Coast to Coast AM audience. Do you want to do it? And he said, yeah, let's go. So, you know, I mean, it's just, they haven't put any new shows up on Spotify. Coast to Coast AM has since March. That's a worrying sign. Plus, most of the ones they put, not most, all the ones they put on YouTube are all Snorri shows. They usually don't put shows from the weekend hosts up there on YouTube. So, you know, unless you have a membership to that, to Coast to Coast AM, you're probably never going to hear that show. Check this shit out. I wrote to Coast and asked them if I could have a copy of the show. Isn't this pretty standard, you know? Pretty much has been for years. You know what they told me? They told me to buy a membership. Are you fucking kidding me? I don't have guests on my show. I didn't when I first started. I don't anymore because there's nobody I want to talk to or interview. But if I did, you think I'm going to tell the guest, no, you can't have a copy. You got to get a subscription to the Patreon. What? The audacity of that shit. I mean, it's just, it's crazy because you have all these different people, from the guest to the host to the network to the listeners, and all of them, including myself, have a different belief of what the whole thing is. My belief, because this is what talk shows have been about since time immemorial. I mean, this is the earliest talk shows, and even before TV, radio. Someone's always a guest comes on a show to promote something, a book, a movie, whatever it might be. And so the guest operates from that standpoint at all times. The listeners think that the guests are there to give them free information without them having to purchase what they're selling, their book, their movie, whatever. That's the expectation of the listeners on Coast. The expectation of Coast itself is that the host is there to provide them monetizable content. I mean, everybody was complaining. Listen, this show got great reviews from the people who heard it. I mean, all the listeners were saying, this is the best guest. This Hangar 18 guy is the best guest that Coast has had in years. They were saying that. And what did they do to me? They sabotaged me again. They didn't put me in the first 2-hour slot. They put me in the second one. And what did they put in? And if you're putting the second one, that's fine, as long as you've got a good lead in that's going to keep people's attention till you get to the last 2 hours. What did they put me after? Some guy talking about the college admissions scam. Boy, that really sounds like Coast to Coast AM material right there. You put the college admissions scam before you put something about Hangar 18, which I heard about from listening to Coast AM in the early 90s from Art Bell. You put me, because they know that if they put me first, it's going to go through the roof, and then everybody's going to tune out, and not a single person is going to listen to the fucking college admissions scam bullshit on Coast to Coast AM. But what Coast to Coast AM's thinking is, oh, well, if we do that, then that's 2 hours of ad revenue we're going to lose, because nobody's going to tune in. They're going to all tune out after the first 2 hours. So what they do is, who's the one that ends up getting punished in all this? Me. Because their thinking is, okay, will put the boring shit on for the first 2 hours, and people will stick around to hear the last 2 hours with the Hangar 18 guy. But that's not what happens. You know what people do? They go, fuck this show, fuck this bullshit. Why am I going to sit through 2 fucking hours of college admission scam bullshit? They tune out and they don't listen to any of it. So once again, I mean, you know, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's intentional, whether it isn't, doesn't change the fact that it feels intentional. It's 2 times in a row I've been on there. Even the second time I went, the first time I went on, it was great. In 2013. Big success. I went on again in 2014, and during that time, they had fired the guy that was the host when I went on the first time, John B. Wells. They fired him. They put some other fucking Nimrod in there, and nobody liked him, so nobody tuned in for the same time I was on Coast, and Lost Secrets of Ancient America tanked because of that. So that was the first time. I don't remember much about the third time. It was with Richard Serra, but I don't even remember anything. Oh, it was Lost Secrets of Ancient America 2 or 3 or both. Yeah. Okay, I remember it now. And, you know, the commercials are so annoying. Like, Richard asks you a question, and before, and he doesn't time it. It's not a criticism of him. Richard's great, but it just happens this way that he doesn't time it to give me enough time to properly answer these questions before the commercial, which is fine if you come back to that and let me continue to answer that question after we come back from the break. But oftentimes, you know, he either forgets or, you know, it's just a natural thing, or we don't, and I don't get to. I mean, I had a lot more to say about some of the questions he asked me than I got to say, because I'd get cut off by the commercials or whatever. Yeah. But I mean, can you believe that shit? They told me to buy a fucking membership, so what I wanted to do was I was going to get a copy and then put it in the Patreon for the Patreon listeners. So if anybody out there recorded that show or has a copy of it, please send it to me. If you send me a copy of the show from Saturday night, I'll send you a download of whatever movie you want in exchange. How about that? On the subject of movies, my 70-second documentary is out right now. It's a music documentary. It's not a conspiracy documentary. It's called Thin Lizzy, Irish Kings. And I got to tell you guys, listen, even if you're not a fan of Thin Lizzy, or you've never heard them, you're not familiar with them, you should see this film. It's only $8. But it's my best filmmaking. It really is. All of my filmmaking before this has just kind of been leading to this. It really is my best. I never watched back. I've told you that. I never watched back my own stuff. But I watched this one back last night, and when it was over, I went, wow, that was great. I was kind of shocked. It was actually kind of like, wow. Because I've seen all the Thin Lizzy documentaries before, and they all kind of play the same way, you know, like I said before, kind of like a behind the music. It's just kind of like, you know, things were going great till tragedy struck, you know, and all the same fucking thing. And that's been my complaint about all the other Thin Lizzy documentaries that ever been made. So this one is more of an appeal to show why, in my opinion, they belong to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know who's getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year? The White Stripes. You know, I saw the White Stripes in a club, Trees, here in Dallas, 2 days after 9/11 in 2001. It was their second tour. That was 24 years ago. Almost 24 years ago. Right? A band I saw in a club 24 years ago is getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but Thin Lizzy and Iron Maiden and Motorhead and on and on and on aren't? Okay. Cool story, bro. The Woke and Droll Hall of Lame. That's my official name for it. I don't call it the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame anymore. It's the Woke and Droll Hall of Lame. Listen, Thin Lizzy, I mean, if you're all about the woke shit and the diversity and all that, you know, Thin Lizzy, Jesus Christ, Phil Lynott was a half-black Irishman. You know how many people, black people there were in Ireland in the 70s? Like zero, like one. Phil Lynott was like the only black dude in Ireland in the 1970s. Yeah. Yeah, and I got the clip in the film of his mom talking about being called she got called I'm not going to say it, N-word lover. Yeah, I mean, you got to talk this big game about being about diversity and inclusion. You have, I guess because he's half white, he doesn't count though, right? Okay. Whatever. It's bullshit. They're fucking one of the greatest bands of all time. And I've actually got, there's actual clips, and their actual clips are in the movie, and some of their actual music is in the movie. It's not one of those cheaped out documentaries where they use fake music and stuff. Yeah, it's I mean, just the way it flows, the way it's sequenced, and what information is included. I think it's my best film. I really do. Still my best music documentary. I've made 4 other ones. I made one on Merle Haggard, one on the MC5, another one this year on the band Badfinger, and now this one, my 4th one. But I mean, this film proves that I'm ready for the big time as far as filmmaking. Like I could make a, official documentary for a band if I was, given the job to do such a thing. It really, and plus, Thin Lizzy, I know so much about them. Command of the information is really key. I made the Spellcaster series 9 film. People complained because it took so long to make. It took so long to come out. But what shows in that 9, that's why it took 9 films to complete the fucking series, is that, what shows that I had a command of that information because I had been living with it and researching it for so long, it comes through. A lot of these subjects and films I'm making, not all of them, but some of them, I don't have a huge command of the information. This Hangar 18 one, and if you haven't got a copy of that, you've got to, man. It really is. I had fun blowing Richard's mind on the show the other night when I talked about some of the info in this film. He could fucking believe it. But, some of this stuff, what I was telling him on the show was that, through the years, I've been keeping little notes on Hangar 18 since the 90s. And I've just been writing, in this little journal, I've been writing down these little notes. And so the film, This Is Hangar 18, is a culmination of all 30 years of research into Hangar 18. Or any little thing I hear someone say about it or something, or whistleblowers, and I write it down. So, yeah, I mean, this Is Hangar 18 film is another one of those ones where I have such a command of the information, having researched it for so long, that it just makes it good. So, get a copy. Get a copy of any of the other films I've made this year. Oh, we sold 3 copies on Coast to Coast. Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking dead point. You can't fucking expect anyone to listen to terrestrial radio from 2 to 4 a.m. in the morning. And then if they don't hear it at 2 to 4 a.m. in the morning over actual FM airwaves, they have to pay. It's ridiculous. And you won't even send the guy who did the fucking show. You won't even let him have an MP3 of the show for free. You tell him to go buy a fucking membership to Coast AM if he wants to hear his own show he did. You suck my fucking cock. And let me tell you else who can suck my fucking cock. We always get at least one of these. Generally, I don't pay attention to what one person says. But I had somebody, I guess it was a new listener or whatever from Coast, and they heard a show I put up on YouTube or something. And they left I deleted it and banned them, but they left a comment and said, I heard you on Coast to Coast AM, and I was tuning in, and then I hear this filth-talking mouth. What would your coasties on Coast to Coast AM think about you talking with a foul mouth? I don't know, Mom. But guess what? Fuck off. Go fuck yourself. Okay? I'm not some buttoned-up corporate cocksucker that works for iHeartRadio. And if you haven't noticed, I'm not the only person in the world that cusses. I'm certainly not the only person on a podcast that cusses. Joe Rogan has the biggest podcast in the world. That guy cusses like a sailor. So go fuck yourself, all right? I'm not some corporate stooge. Let me ask you this. Whenever you hear me go on Coast to Coast AM, I've been on there 5 times. Have you ever heard me once ever even slip a little bit and say a cuss word while I'm on? No. No, because I'm a pro when I go on there. I'm a pro at this shit. 72 documentaries. I'm a professional filmmaker. I've been doing this show since 2007. 18 years on air. I choose to be real. Now, if someone wants to pay me to do a Coast to Coast AM thing or something, someone wants to pay me to do a corporate gig and pay me to do it when there's a check at the end of the week, or if you want to pay my operating costs, it's $1,500 every month, plus about $200 in the middle of the month for electric and power. Now, if you want to pay me that money every month, I'll stop cussing, sure. But until then, go fuck yourself. Okay? Thank you. Cocksuckers. Anyway, it's just, the continued disrespect that Coast does to me when I go, it's ridiculous. And you notice, I've been on there 5 times, but I've never been invited to be on there during the week with Snorri. You know why, don't you? Yeah, pretty easy. I exposed him as being connected to Scientology in my 2016 film, The Spellcasters Volume 1. Yeah. The whole Coast to Coast AM thing, it's a whole Scientology front organization, like a money laundering thing. How do you think they've been able to stay on air all these years? You know where the Coast to Coast AM studio is? It's right down the street from the Scientology building in Los Angeles. Y'all could have put it on the other end of town. You'd have to put it right down the street from Scientology. Pretty obvious. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I exposed the whole truth movement, conspiracy genre thing, connected it to Scientology back in 2016. You want to watch that movie? You haven't seen that one. Watch the whole Spellcaster series. You can buy the whole 9-film series in the download store. Get that. I mean, that's what I always tell people. If you're new to my work, you want me to tell you what to watch first. Watch that. Watch the whole 9-film series of the Spellcasters first. Buy that in the download store. Then go to the download store and find my 5-part Mystery Hollywood series. It's the best, maybe some of the best ever doc connecting, certainly that I've ever done. And some of them amongst the best that's ever been done. I mean, this movie came out, and I started finding all these codes and secret things hidden in it, and I decoded it and made it a 5-part series. So, yeah, get that. There's lots of stuff in my download store. That's why I made all these things. Because you can't tell me you can't look at my list of films and not find something in there that interests you. If you say you don't, again, go fuck yourself. All right? Give me a second. But really, you really, really, really should see my Thin Lizzy documentary. It's so fucking good. Husband of slain King of the Hill star claims killing was homophobia-fueled murder. Oh, I thought it was because John Redcorn. Because Dale Gribble found out John Redcorn was really his son's father. Tristan Conde Gonzalez, who identified himself as the husband of King of the... Oh, so he was a pole smoker. I didn't know that. So John Redcorn was gay, huh? Okay. I didn't know John Redcorn was a pole smoker. Okay, so some dude didn't like fags, and went and shot him. Wow. No, it wouldn't be the first time. Sucks, though. Pfizer CEO goes to war with RFK Jr. over mRNA vaccines amid cancer link. Oh, what? Poor little Pfizer. Poor little Pfizer is sad because they got exposed as putting cancer viruses in their vaccines when they said it was a conspiracy theory forever. Aww. Poor little Pfizer. They're such victims. Fuck you. The CEO of giant Pfizer has sprung to Moderna's defense following the Trump administration's decision to cut its funding for the development of a bird flu vaccine. Yeah. Why do you think they want to create a bird flu vaccine with federal funding? Because they created it in the first place. They know now, and they've seen it work with Rona, COVID, whatever. I still call it the Rona. They see now. Look, all we got to do is create this shit and put it out there. I've told this story a million times. I want to tell it again. I used to work for a software company, Intuit. The company that makes TurboTax. I used to work for them from 2000 to 2002, and one day I was on a break outside, and I heard I worked in this giant building where there was a bunch of different accounts, different software companies, and this was shortly after 9/11, and I was talking about, even then, like a few days after that, I was talking about how, something wasn't right with this thing, and forget how we got on the subject. One of the software guys goes, well, it's probably like what we do, and I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, we work for McAfee, and our software is designed to detect and remove viruses that we create and put out there. We create the viruses and put them out there, and then you have to buy our software to remove them. And I went, are you serious? And I said, yeah, absolutely. We do it every day. This is 2001, this guy's telling me this. So you don't think they've taken that and applied that to outbreaks and pandemics and all that? Of course. That's what the bird flu thing is. That's why the day before the inauguration, Biden ordered the slaughter of millions of chickens because he knew that weeks before Trump had made the promise to lower egg prices on his first day. So the day before his first day, Biden orders the slaughter of all these chickens, supposedly because of bird flu, and then egg prices shoot up, and then everybody says, oh, Trump lied. He said he was going to lower egg prices on the first day, but he didn't. Well, yeah, that was before Biden ordered millions of chickens to be slaughtered. Meanwhile, the egg industry is making more profits than it ever has, just like the pharmaceutical companies made more profits than they ever had during COVID. And nobody's asking the question. I've been derided for asking this question. What they try to do is, to try and negate your question, is they say, oh, you're a dummy because chickens that you eat are the same as chickens and eggs. What? Eggs are chicken embryos, you dumb fuck. That was my question. So, egg prices are high because of bird flu, but the price of chicken is still the same and hasn't gone up. And then people say, well, the chickens that produce the eggs aren't the same as the chickens that we eat. I understand that, dumb fuck, but they are still chickens. And they would still be susceptible to bird flu, which is the reason that Biden gave us for having the millions of chickens slaughtered the day before he left office. But yet, you could still go to the supermarket and get you chicken. You can go to KFC and get some fried chicken. Those prices, everything's inched up a little, but what I'm saying is not like the price of eggs. So, this bird flu causes the price to rise only because the embryos are in danger? Right. Okay. It's just another scam. It's just another lie. And listen, if you got to eat eggs, you know what it is? People want what... It's like people want what they can't have, I don't give a fuck 2 fucks about eggs. I rarely eat eggs. It's not something I have to have. You know what I mean? But people act like it is. Because people don't want to sacrifice anything. And you can live without fucking eggs. Anyway. Yeah, it's the same fucking bullshit. They've been scaremongering the bird flu thing to raise the price, the artificial inflation on eggs. But yet chicken prices haven't gone up. And yet they should if bird flu is the reason for the egg prices being high like we've been told. Clearly it isn't. It's a lie. It's just a way for them to artificially inflate prices. Give me a second, guys. Researchers prove Joe Rogan's theory about 20-cent wonder drug taken by millions of Americans is correct. As colon cancer link emerges. What? Oh, but it's never mind. Can't read that article. It's behind a paywall. So I'm telling you, even if it is an article that seems interesting to read, nope, you're not going to read that one. No, I'm not buying a subscription to Daily Mail. You can suck my dick on that. You know, there's a G4 geomagnetic storm going on right now. Yeah, those are rare. G4s are rare. Yeah, so depending on where you live, if you live farther, like if you live in the northern part of the Midwest, you probably can see some auroras tonight. G4 Severe Geomagnetic Storm Watch issued for June 2nd following strong Earth-directed coronal mass ejection. Here's the thing, you know, because I was buying into this for a long time too, but I've changed my stance on this now. I think it's all bullshit. It really got me a couple of weeks ago when they issued that. You remember on the show I asked you guys to send in reports, you know, if you had blackouts or energy brownouts or whatever. And, of course, I got none because nobody did. And they issued blackout warnings that said power grids were in danger and that there was already outages. You know, none of that. I checked into all that. None of that ever happened. It was total bullshit. None of it ever happened. Nothing ever happens. Every time they say they were going to have power outages, power grid failures from a coronal mass ejection or a geomagnetic storm or something, it never happens. I'm convinced. I've talked about this, I know, previously on the show, but I'm just convinced. It's all bullshit, folks. It's all bullshit to hide the fact that something they can't explain is protecting the Earth, and so they have to hype this solar flare stuff and geomagnetic storm stuff in order to cover up the fact that Earth is being protected. Earth is being protected by some force they don't want to talk about. They don't want to tell it. I mean, I've talked about the Van Allen radiation belt a ton. I made that film last year, Operation Underground, the nuking of the Van Allen radiation belts. I mean, we nuked the Van Allen radiation belts in 1962, and all it did was make them stronger. Made a third belt for them. And then last year, when we were getting hammered with solar flares, that third belt that was artificially created from the nuking of the Van Allen belts in 62 flared up and came out again. The Van Allen radiation belt is an artificial construct. There's no other planets in our solar system that have a radiation belt around them to protect them from solar radiation. It's an artificial construct. And then we nuke it and it became stronger? Excuse me? Same thing with the ozone layer. Remember the 80 and the ozone layer, and they were saying coolant, stuff, all that stuff was causing it, chlorofluorocarbons. And then what happened? That's what they were doing with HARP too. Because they found some holes that repaired themselves, and they was well, let us see. So they started blasting holes in the ionosphere with HARP, and then all those holes repaired themselves by some unknown force that science can't explain. The holes that were put by humans in the ozone layer, that was the big thing, that was the big scaremonger in the 80s. greenhouse gases and then holes in the ozone layer. They repaired themselves. Every time some huge solar flare gets projected out towards Earth, either goes to the left or goes to the right of Earth, or nothing happens. There's some unknown force, and like I talked about before, you can call it God, you can call it the simulation theory, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter. Something is protecting the Earth. And I've talked about this and seen this in other things for a long time. I've seen them. I swear that's why they do some of the crazy shit they do. Like, you can give Allen radiation belts or, dropping 1,000 tons of nerve gas into the ocean. Whatever it might be. And people go, why would the powers that be do this? Their children live here too. Why don't they care? It's because they know something we don't. Remember, Fukushima was right there on the ocean in Japan? And they were even detecting radiation on the coast of America, Los Angeles, and California and stuff. They were detecting it, but nothing came from it. No one got cancer. No one died. No, there were people that died at the Fukushima thing. That's all I'm saying. Just mean, that was supposed to be the end of us too. There's something they know about, some force that protects the Earth. Some people believe it's Gaia. That's what some people call Earth Gaia, like Mother Gaia. And some people believe that Earth, being a living organism, has sort of a immune system. And that the Van Allen belts are a part of that. The repairing ozone layer is a part of that. Almost like it's the Earth's immune system heals it from things when it's hurt. I don't know if I believe that, but I think it's as good of a theory as any. It's definitely as good as, Sky Daddy watching over us. You know what I mean? Really, if you want to boil it down, it's funny if people go, that's a ridiculous idea that the Earth is an organism and it's a living thing. That's ridiculous. It's got to be God. Wait, Sky Daddy's more plausible than the Earth being a living organism? It just doesn't make any sense. If you believe Sky Daddy's watching over us, you should be open to other things too. You've never seen any proof of Sky Daddy. He's never shown himself to you, any more than you have any plausible evidence to just, circumstantial evidence that the Earth is a living organism. I think that's what it is. I think Earth is a living organism, and it has an immune system, and that's why pollution and bullshit stuff about warming, man-made warming, and why they've had oil wells that they've sucked dry and then gone back years later and they're fucking even more full than they were before. That's happened. Yeah. So, I don't know, guys, anymore. I just think they're fear-mongering the whole solar storm thing and prediction. I made films about it. Predictions that scientists said, solar cycle 25 could produce solar flares that could be the end of the Earth, and I think that we're protected, and I think we should all just be grateful that we're protected, even though we don't really know what it is that's protecting us, but we should all just be grateful, because from everything I was reading, I was pretty convinced over the past couple of years that 2025, this year, was the end. Because I just kept seeing all these things. I made a movie about it, but it really has been crazy how many ways that they said. This year was supposed to be the year. And it's still early. It's only June, right? So this year was supposed to be the year. I talked about this a little bit on Coast to Coast DM the other night. So one of these things, I made a film last year called The Chronovisor. Check that one out if you have it in the download store. But one of the pieces of technology that's supposedly stored at Hangar 18 is this weird thing called, I can't remember the name of it now. It's not the chronovisor, but it's called something like that, like something vision. Anyway, supposedly it was recreated from something they found on a crashed UFO. Looking glass technology, that's what it was. So supposedly they found this thing on a UFO and they reverse engineered it. It enables you to see future timelines. The problem with that is those are, if you believe in Einstein's theory of relativity, that means that you could only really see possible timelines. It doesn't mean that what you're seeing is going to be the actual future. But either way, with this thing, they supposedly saw a fake alien invasion in 2025. And this was decades ago. This wasn't anytime recently. They also saw humans merging with machines, the singularity happening by 2045. Yeah. Looking glass technology, that's what it was called. Yeah, it's really interesting. But if you don't know how the theory of relativity ties into that, let's say that there's a road on the left, there's a road on the right. You're standing at the crossroads of both of them, right? And you choose to walk down the road on the left. And so the adventures and what you encounter, things that happen on the road on the left, are very different from what you would have encountered on the road on the right. But you don't know that because you didn't experience that. But that choice of you going down the road on the right happens, and did happen, in space-time. Right? So, but you only experience the road that you chose to go down. So that means out there somewhere in space-time, all the events that could have taken place but didn't actually took place somewhere in space-time according to Einstein's theory of relativity. So that's what this looking glass thing would, that's why they probably have never come out with this thing or admitted to having it or admitting something like it, because it wouldn't be accurate. What you're looking at could be one possibility of something that could happen because it happened in space-time, or you could be looking at at something that did happen or something that may have happened. So there's just no way for that kind of thing to be accurate or reliable. So I think that's why they never came out with that thing. But that's fascinating. I can't remember what my point was. I was talking about so on the show that I mentioned this. I was trying to think of the name of this thing. It wasn't the Sumerian king list. That's one thing. The Sumerian God tablet was what I was trying to think of. Which talks all about the genetic manipulation of the Anunnaki, and the guy who, it's just never talked about when people talk about the Anunnaki. The guy that translated this tablet was the guy I was talking about that committed suicide by shooting his own self in the back of the head twice. Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. But anyway, if you haven't seen This Is Hangar 18, go get a copy now. Buy as many downloads as you can, all right? Because I got to eat this week, and we got to pay the operating costs. $1,300 for our Fridays, we got to raise. All right, guys? Dayglow76 at yahoo.com on PayPal. Reeves Radio, all lowercase, one word. Reeves Radio on the Cash App. Capital J, Josh, dash, capital R, Reeves, dash 61 on Venmo, and 7894 if it asks you for the last four digits of my number when you try to send money on Venmo, okay? I love you guys. We'll see you next time. Take care.